Chosen one. Why do you feel like God's promises are always one day away? Why does every breakthrough feel like it's coming next month or next year, while you're sitting here today, still waiting, still hoping, still believing for something that seems to dance just beyond your fingertips? What if I told you that the 10th of August isn't just another date on your calendar, it's the expiration date on your spiritual season of delay? If you are hearing my voice before the 10th of August, heaven is reaching for you. Miss this moment, and what God planned for you may be delayed for years. I know that sounds impossible. I know your mind is already questioning whether one single day could matter that much. But let me ask you something that might shatter everything you think you know about divine timing. Why did God give Noah only 7 days warning before the flood? Why did the Israelites have only 24 hours to prepare for Passover? Why did Esther have just 3 days to save her entire nation? Because some opportunities in God's kingdom don't wait for you to feel ready. Right now, as these words penetrate your spirit, something is shifting in the heavenlies. Angels are positioning themselves around this very moment, because what I'm about to reveal will either catapult you into your destiny or leave you wondering for years why breakthrough keeps slipping through your fingers like sand. Before we go deeper, I want to pause and thank every single one of you who has supported this message through Super Thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating, you're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here. Your support, your time, your attention, it all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead and plant that seed of faith. But listen carefully, chosen one. Some trains in life come every week, the train of routine, of comfort, of maybe tomorrow. Some trains come once in a lifetime. This one will not wait. The 10th of August is what Scripture calls a set time. Psalm 102:13 declares, "You will arise and have mercy on Zion, for the time to favor her, yes, the set time has come, not any time, not whenever you're ready. The set time." If you can feel something stirring in your chest right now, if something deep in your spirit is confirming that this message found you at exactly the right moment, type, "I'm listening" in the comments. Let heaven know you're paying attention, because what happens in the next few minutes will determine whether you step into your sacred window or watch it close from the outside. The question burning in the throne room of heaven right now is this: will you recognize your moment when it arrives, or will you let fear convince you it's just another day? Before this message ends, you'll know exactly what to do before the 10th of August. You'll understand why this date carries prophetic weight, and you'll discover the one action that could change your entire trajectory. But first, you need to understand why you've been waiting so long. Why do some people seem to walk into their destiny while others spend their entire lives knocking on doors that never open? Why does breakthrough come to some at 25 while others are still waiting at 75? What if I told you that the difference isn't luck, isn't favoritism, and isn't even faith, it's timing? You see, dear one, there's something the church doesn't teach you about God's calendar. There's something they skip over when they tell you to wait on the Lord. They don't tell you that while God's timing is perfect, His appointments are precise. And missing your appointment doesn't just delay your blessing, it can reset your entire timeline. How many of you sitting there right now can think of a moment when opportunity knocked and you hesitated? How many of you remember the job you almost took, the love you almost pursued, the ministry you almost started, the move you almost made? You told yourself there would be another chance. You convinced yourself that if it was meant to be, it would come back around. But did it? The truth that's going to shatter your comfortable theology is this: not every door God opens stays open forever. Some opportunities in His kingdom come with expiration dates stamped by heaven itself. Ecclesiastes 3:1 doesn't say, "To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under heaven." Eventually, it says a time. Singular, specific, appointed. The Hebrew word here is moed, a divine appointment, a set meeting. a predetermined moment that cannot be rescheduled. Listen to me carefully, chosen one. God doesn't operate like your doctor's office where you can reschedule when it's more convenient. When heaven sets an appointment, the angels don't have a cancellation policy. Think about Esther. When Mordecai told her she needed to approach the king to save her people, she asked for 3 days to fast and pray. Not 3 weeks, not 3 months, 3 days, because that's all the time they had. Esther 4:14 cuts straight to the bone. For if you remain completely silent at this time, relief and deliverance will arise for the Jews from another place, but you and your father's house will perish. Yet who knows whether you have come to the kingdom for such a time as this? Did you catch that? If she missed her moment, deliverance would come from another place. God's plan would proceed, but she would perish. The blessing didn't need her, but she desperately needed the blessing. Some of you are sitting there thinking about all the times you waited too long, the relationship that got away while you were praying about it, the opportunity that went to someone else while you were seeking confirmation, the calling you ignored because you thought you had forever to answer it. But what if those weren't mistakes? What if those were preparation for this moment? What if every door you missed was teaching you to recognize the sound of heaven's knocking? What if God allowed you to experience the pain of missed appointments so you wouldn't miss this one? Here's what's going to revolutionize how you see divine timing. Noah didn't build the ark because it was raining. He built it because God told him rain was coming. For decades, he hammered and sawed under clear skies while his neighbors mocked him. But when the first raindrop fell, it was too late to start building. The door of the ark wasn't just closed, it was sealed by God himself. You're living in your ark building season right now. The 10th of August isn't when the blessing begins, it's when the preparation ends. It's when God seals what you've been building in secret and releases what you've been believing for in silence. Joshua faced the walls of Jericho for 7 days. 7 days of marching in silence, while those walls stood unmoved, unchanged, unimpressed by their faith. Can you imagine what the people whispered on day 3? Are we sure we heard God right? On day 5? Maybe we should try a different approach. On day 6? Perhaps we misunderstood the instructions. But on day 7, at the appointed moment, Joshua commanded them to shout. Not because the walls looked weaker, not because the strategy suddenly made sense, but because it was time. And in that moment, that precise, divinely appointed moment, walls that had stood for generations crumbled like sand. The prophet Habakkuk received a revelation that shook him to his core. For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it will speak, and it will not lie. Though it tarries, wait for it, because it will surely come, it will not tarry. Notice the paradox. It tarries, but it will not tarry. It delays until the appointed time, but once that time comes, there's no more delay. What feels like slowness is actually precision. What looks like lateness is actually perfect timing. Here's the revelation that's going to change everything for you. God's timing isn't about control, it's about love. He doesn't make you wait to punish you. He makes you wait to prepare you. Because the blessing he has planned for you is so big, so overwhelming, so life-altering that receiving it prematurely would destroy you. But there comes a moment when the preparation is complete, when your character matches your calling, when your capacity aligns with your destiny, when your faith is strong enough to handle what he's about to release. That moment is your divine appointment. That moment is the 10th of August. Some of you can feel it right now, can't you? That stirring in your spirit that says, this isn't just another sermon, another prophecy, another word about breakthrough coming soon. This is different. This is urgent. This is now. The question that will determine your next decade isn't whether you believe God has a plan for your life. The question is, will you recognize your moment when it arrives, or will you let it pass while you're still waiting for a more convenient time? Because heaven's calendar doesn't adjust for your schedule must align with heaven's appointments. You know what breaks my heart? It's not the prayers that go unanswered. It's the prayers that were answered years ago, but we missed the appointment. Let me tell you about a man named Jonah. God spoke to him clearly, gave him a direct assignment, even provided the transportation. But Jonah had his own timeline. He had his own ideas about when and how things should happen. So he boarded a ship going the opposite direction. 3 days in the belly of a whale later, Jonah learned something that too many of God's people discover too late. Delay is not just postponement, it's devastation. When Jonah finally obeyed, Nineveh was saved. But what if he had never come out of that fish? What if his delay had become permanent? An entire city would have perished because one man thought he could negotiate with divine timing. Dear chosen one, how many whales have you been swimming in because you missed your moment? You've been waiting for decades, haven't you? Praying the same prayers your grandmother prayed, asking God for the same breakthroughs your mother begged for. Some of you have been standing in faith for financial freedom since the 1982nd. Others have been believing for family restoration since your children were young, and now they have children of their own. Some of you have been waiting for your calling to manifest since you were in your 30s, and now you're collecting Social Security. But what if I told you that every delay hasn't been God's timing? It's been your timing colliding with His. Think about the children of Israel. They should have been in the Promised Land in 11 days. 11 days. From Egypt to Canaan, God had mapped out an 11-day journey. But 40 years later, an entire generation died in the wilderness. Not because God changed His mind, not because the promise expired, but because when the moment came to cross over, they hesitated, they delayed, they sent spies when God said go, they held committees when heaven said charge. Numbers 14:28 records God's heartbreaking response. As surely as I live, declares the Lord, I will do to you the very thing I heard you say. They said they would die in the wilderness, so they did. Their words became their reality. Their delay became their destiny. How many of you are living in your own wilderness right now, circling the same mountains, fighting the same giants, praying the same prayers, waiting for the same breakthroughs that should have happened years ago? Here's the truth that will either liberate you or terrify you. God's promises don't expire, but His appointed times do. Listen to me carefully. When a farmer plants a seed, there's a specific window for watering. Miss it by a day, and the seed might survive. Miss it by a week, and it struggles. Miss it by a month, and what was meant to be a harvest becomes compost in the soil. The seed was perfect, the soil was ready, the season was right, but the timing of action determined whether there would be life or death. You've been planted in this season for a reason. God has been preparing the soil of your circumstances, orchestrating the weather patterns of your life, positioning you for harvest. But if you miss the watering window, if you let the 10th of August pass without action, what was meant to bloom this year might not sprout until 2035. Do you understand what I'm saying? You're not just choosing between acting today or acting tomorrow. You're choosing between breakthrough this decade or breakthrough next decade. Some of you are thinking, but I'm already 75. I'm already 82. How much time do I have left to wait another 10 years? Exactly. Exactly. That's precisely why this moment matters more for you than anyone else. You don't have the luxury of decades of delay. You don't have time to circle the mountain again. You don't have another 40 years to wander in the wilderness of what if and maybe tomorrow. Moses was 80 when God called him to deliver Israel. 80. But he didn't say, God, I'm too old, let me wait until I feel younger. He said yes immediately. Abraham was 75 when God told him to leave everything he knew. Sarah was 90 when she conceived Isaac. Caleb was 85 when he said, give me this mountain. Your age isn't your disqualification, it's your urgency. But here's what's going to shock you about the 10th of August. This date isn't random. It's not something I picked out of a hat or chose because it sounds spiritual. The 10th of August sits at the intersection of prophetic timing, that hasn't aligned like this in over 30 years. It's connected to biblical patterns, celestial movements, and spiritual seasons that most people will never recognize because they're not watching with prophetic eyes. The Hebrew calendar, the agricultural seasons, even the position of certain constellations, they're all pointing to this exact window. Daniel spoke of times and seasons. Ecclesiastes declared there's a time for every purpose under heaven. And right now, all the prophetic clocks are ticking toward the 10th of August. But here's what breaks my heart. Most people will miss it. Not because they're bad people, not because they don't love God, but because they've become so accustomed to delay that they can't recognize an acceleration when it comes. They've become so comfortable in the wilderness that they're afraid of the promised land. What about you? Are you going to let this moment pass like all the others? Are you going to add the 10th of August to the list of dates you wish you had acted on? Are you going to spend the next 5 years wondering what would have happened if you had just said yes when heaven called your name? Because I'm telling you right now, some opportunities don't come back. Some doors only open once. Some trains only stop at your station one time in your entire life. The question that will haunt you or heal you is this: when the 11th of August comes, will you be celebrating your obedience or mourning your hesitation? But before you can act, you need to understand exactly what the 10th of August is calling you to do. Listen to me, dear one. If you've made it this far in this message, it's not by accident. Heaven has been watching you, marking you, preparing you for decades. And right now, I'm going to reveal the unmistakable signs that prove you are chosen for this, the 10th of August window. But first, let me ask you something that might cut deep. Why have you survived every storm that should have destroyed you? Why are you still standing when others who seemed stronger have fallen? Why does your spirit still burn with hope when your circumstances should have extinguished it years ago? Because you are not ordinary. You never were. You see, chosen ones don't get chosen because life is easy for them. They get chosen because they can handle what would break ordinary people. Think about it. When God needed someone to survive the flood, He didn't choose the most comfortable family. He chose Noah, who could build an ark while the world mocked him. When heaven needed someone to survive the lion's den, they didn't pick the popular politician. They chose Daniel, who prayed 3 times a day even when it meant death. You carry the Daniel anointing. Favor and opposition, walking hand in hand through your life. Look at your story, beloved. How many times have you been promoted right after persecution? How many times has your greatest blessing come immediately after your biggest battle? That's not coincidence, that's divine strategy. God has been positioning you in the furnace because He knew you could handle the heat without losing your character. But here's what breaks my heart. Too many of you are sitting there right now thinking, but I've made so many mistakes, I've failed too many times. Surely God couldn't use someone like me for something this significant. Stop, right there, stop. Moses was a murderer who became a deliverer. David was an adulterer who became a man after God's own heart. Peter denied Jesus 3 times and became the rock of the early church. Your past doesn't disqualify you. It qualifies you, because only someone who's been forgiven much can love much. You want to know if you're chosen for this window? Here are the signs heaven has been writing across your life. You've been the curse breaker in your family. While others repeat the same destructive patterns, you broke free. The addiction that claimed your father, you conquered it. The poverty that trapped your grandparents, you refused to accept it as your inheritance. The depression that haunted your bloodline, you turned it into testimony. You didn't just survive your family's dysfunction, you transformed it. You've been standing like a lighthouse in the storm, battered, yes, bruised, absolutely, but still standing, still shining, still guiding others home when they've lost their way. How many midnight phone calls have you answered from people in crisis? How many times have strangers approached you for advice without knowing why? Because your light is visible from miles away, even in your darkest seasons. You've been walking through favor and opposition simultaneously. Just when God opens a door, hell sends opposition. Just when breakthrough comes, betrayal follows. But here's the mystery: you keep rising. Every setback becomes a setup. Every betrayal births a new level of wisdom. Every closed door leads to an open heaven. Look at modern examples of this divine pattern. Denzel Washington was told by a pastor at age 20 that he would touch millions through his work, but first he'd have to walk through seasons where his faith would be tested. Tyler Perry lived in his car, writing scripts that nobody wanted, for years before God opened the floodgates. Viola Davis faced rejection after rejection in Hollywood, told she was too dark and not pretty enough, before becoming the first black woman to achieve the triple crown of acting. They didn't succeed despite their struggles. They succeeded because their struggles qualified them to carry a message the world desperately needed. But here's what they all understood, that you must grasp tonight. Timing is everything. Each of them had moments, specific windows, where they had to choose between playing it safe and stepping into their destiny. They couldn't wait until they felt ready. They couldn't postpone until circumstances were perfect. They had to move when heaven said move. And heaven is saying, move to you. Right now. The 10th of August. You've been in preparation long enough. The wilderness season is ending. The testing phase is complete. Every tear you've cried, every prayer you've whispered in desperation, every time you almost gave up but chose to trust God one more day, it was all preparation for this moment. Your spirit is stirring right now because something ancient is awakening. Something that's been dormant through all the years of struggle, all the seasons of silence, all the times you wondered if God had forgotten your name. But He hasn't forgotten. He's been preparing the stage for your greatest performance. Daniel was chosen not because he was perfect, but because he was consistent, 3 times a day, every day, regardless of the consequences. Moses was chosen not because he was eloquent, but because he was faithful. 40 years in the wilderness, tending sheep, when he was born to lead nations. David was chosen not because he was the biggest, but because his heart beat in rhythm with heaven's heart. And you've been chosen because you've proven you can be trusted with both blessing and burden, with favor and opposition, with victory and valley. So right now, I need you to do something that's going to shift the atmosphere around your life. I need you to stop shrinking back from your calling. I need you to stop making excuses for why God couldn't use you. I need you to look at yourself through heaven's eyes and see what the Father has always seen. A warrior dressed like a sheep, a king disguised as a servant, a world changer who's been told they're just ordinary. Say it out loud right now. Wherever you are, I am chosen for this time. Say it again, louder. I am chosen for this time. One more time, with the authority of someone who survived everything hell threw at them. I am chosen for this time. Because the 10th of August isn't coming for the comfortable or the casual. It's coming for the consecrated. It's coming for those who've been tried by fire and emerged as gold. It's coming for the lighthouse keepers who never abandoned their posts. But recognizing you're chosen is only the beginning. Now you need to understand what you're being chosen for. Dear chosen one, let me tell you why your ancestors have been praying for the 10th of August, 2024, for generations, even though they never knew the date. You see, there's something heaven has been orchestrating behind the scenes of your life. Something so precise, so mathematically divine, that when you understand it, you'll never question God's timing again. But first, I need you to answer this honestly. How many times have you felt like you were living in spiritual overtime? Like your breakthrough was supposed to happen years ago, but somehow you're still waiting, still believing, still hoping for what feels like the same promises God whispered to you decades ago. That waiting wasn't random. That delay wasn't punishment. It was preparation for the 10th of August. Listen to me carefully. In Scripture, the number 8 represents new beginnings. It was on the 8th day that God commanded circumcision, a cutting away of the old flesh to reveal something new. It was after 8 people were saved in Noah's Ark that God started the world fresh. And dear one, August is the 8th month, the month of new beginnings. But here's where it gets prophetic. The number 10 represents divine order and the completion of cycles. 10 commandments, 10 plagues that broke Pharaoh's grip on Israel, 10 virgins waiting for the bridegroom. When 8 and 10 converge on the 10th of August, you're looking at the divine mathematics of breakthrough new beginnings, meeting divine completion. But why this year? Why now? Because you've completed the cycle. The spiritual classroom season of your life just ended, and heaven is about to release what you've been qualified to receive. Think about Moses. For 40 years, he was getting qualified in the wilderness. 40 years of wondering if God had forgotten him. 40 years of tending sheep while carrying the dreams of delivering nations. But there came one specific day, one divine appointment, when God called him to the burning bush and said, "Now is the time." That's the 10th of August. Here's what most believers don't understand about divine timing. God doesn't just drop blessings randomly into your life. He drops them strategically, at moments when your obedience before the blessing determines how fast the blessing flows. Your response to the 10th of August won't just affect the 11th of August, it will affect the next decade of your life. But I need to warn you about something that's going to challenge everything you've been taught about waiting on God. The enemy has been lying to you, telling you that spiritual maturity means endless patience, endless waiting, endless in God's time. But what if I told you that sometimes faith requires urgency? What if I told you that there are moments when God says, "If you don't move now, you'll miss it"? Remember the 10 virgins in Matthew 25. 5 were wise, 5 were foolish. All 10 knew the bridegroom was coming. All 10 had lamps. But when midnight struck, when the moment arrived, only 5 were ready. The foolish ones said, "Wait for us, we'll get ready." But the door was shut. The opportunity was gone. The bridegroom didn't wait because they asked nicely. He moved because it was time. Your spiritual, the 10th of August is coming whether you're ready or not. The question is, will you be one of the 5 wise, or will you be knocking on a door that's already closed? Here's the shocking truth that religious tradition doesn't want you to know. Your breakthrough has been sitting in heaven's warehouse for years, tagged with your name, waiting for one thing, your alignment. Not your perfection, not your worthiness, your alignment. Before the 10th of August arrives, God is calling you to align 3 critical areas of your life: your heart, your hands, and your house. Your faith, your actions, and your environment. Because a misaligned believer can delay their own blessing for years, even decades, simply because they're not positioned to receive what God wants to release. Your heart, that's your faith alignment. Are you still carrying doubt disguised as humility? Are you still believing God for your breakthrough while secretly planning for your backup plan? Faith and fear cannot occupy the same space. One will evict the other. Your hands, that's your action alignment. James 2:26 says faith without works is dead. What have you been praying for that you're not moving toward? What door have you been asking God to open while you're still sitting on the couch? Your hands must match your prayers. Your house, that's your environment alignment. You cannot receive next-level blessings in old-level environments. Some relationships, some habits, some physical spaces in your life are actually blocking what God wants to bring in. They're not evil, they're just expired. But here's what will shake you to your core. You have exactly the amount of time between now and the 10th of August to get these 3 areas aligned. Not 6 months, not next year. The window is closing, and it won't reopen at this level of opportunity for years. I know what you're thinking. But how do I know what to align? How do I know what needs to change? That's exactly what we're going to address next. Before this message ends, you'll have a clear, specific prayer and action plan that will position you to step boldly into God's timing instead of watching it pass you by. But first, you need to understand why most believers miss their divine appointments entirely, and why the 10th of August might be your last chance to break a cycle that's been running in your family for generations. Are you ready to discover the 3 hidden barriers that have been blocking your breakthrough, and why they all expire on one specific date? Listen to me carefully, chosen one. You've been circling the same mountain for years, haven't you? Praying the same prayers, asking for the same breakthrough, wondering why heaven seems to be on a different schedule than your desperation. But what if I told you that God's delay hasn't been about His timing, it's been about your alignment? The 10th of August is approaching like a freight train loaded with your destiny, but there are 3 spiritual roadblocks that could derail everything you've been believing for. 3 alignments that must happen in your heart, your hands and your house before heaven can release what's already been prepared for you. Think of it this way. You wouldn't land a 747 on a runway covered with debris. You wouldn't park a Rolls-Royce in a garage full of junk. And God won't pour His richest blessings into a vessel that's still contaminated with yesterday's poison. The first alignment, your heart. How many nights have you laid in bed, replaying conversations from 1997? How many times have you caught yourself rehearsing arguments with people who hurt you decades ago? You think you've forgiven, but your heart is still a courthouse where you're both the judge and the jury, sentencing people who aren't even thinking about you anymore. Here's the brutal truth that's going to cut deep. Every ounce of bitterness you carry is a weight that slows down your blessing. Every grudge you nurse is a fence between you and your miracle. Every "they don't deserve forgiveness" is you telling God that His grace isn't sufficient for your pain. David understood this when he cried out in Psalm 51:10, "Create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a right spirit within me." Not fix my circumstances, not punish my enemies. Create in me a clean heart. Because David knew something you're learning right now. God's biggest blessings require the cleanest vessels. But here's what's eating at you. That person who betrayed your trust when you were 45, they're living their best life while you're still carrying the infection. That family member who chose sides against you, they sleep peacefully while you're awake at 2 a.m., heart racing with anger you can't shake. That friend who walked away when you needed them most, they've moved on while you're still building monuments to their betrayal. You want to know why your prayers feel like they're bouncing off the ceiling? Because resentment creates a spiritual static that scrambles heaven's frequency. Your bitterness isn't protecting you, it's poisoning you. It's not keeping them accountable, it's keeping you chained. Before the 10th of August, you must do what feels impossible. Release them completely. Not because they deserve it, but because you deserve the freedom. Forgiveness isn't about them anymore, it's about clearing the runway so your blessing can land. The second alignment, your hands. God has been nudging you to do something, hasn't He? There's been a whisper in your spirit, a gentle push toward action that you've been explaining away, postponing, making excuses for. Maybe it's calling that estranged relative. Maybe it's starting that ministry you've been thinking about for 3 years. Maybe it's simply helping your neighbor with groceries. You keep waiting for the big assignment, the dramatic calling, the burning bush moment. But what if God is waiting for you to be faithful in the small thing before He trusts you with the big thing? Jesus said in Luke 16:10, "He who is faithful in what is least is faithful also in much." Your hands reveal your heart. Your actions expose your faith. And right now, there's a seed act, a simple act of obedience that's been sitting in your spirit like an unopened letter from heaven. Here's what's really happening. God has been testing your readiness through small promptings. He's been watching to see if you'll move when He whispers, before He speaks when He shouts. Every time you ignore that gentle nudge, you're telling heaven you're not ready for the bigger assignment. You want breakthrough, but you won't break routine. You want promotion, but you won't take initiative. You want God to move mountains while you won't move off your couch. The blessing is already in motion, but it's looking for hands that will work with heaven, not just hands that will receive from heaven. What has God been asking you to do that you've been putting off? That's not coincidence, that's calibration. That small act of obedience is the key that unlocks the door to the 10th of August. The third alignment, your house. Look around your living space right now. I don't mean physically, though that matters too. I mean spiritually. What energy are you allowing to rent space in your atmosphere? What voices are you giving permission to speak into your environment? What spirits are you feeding with your entertainment, your conversations, your daily choices? Joshua 24:15 rings with prophetic authority. Choose for yourselves this day whom you will serve. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Not tomorrow, not when things get better. This day, right now. You must declare what's welcome in your space and what needs to be evicted. Your house, your environment, your atmosphere, your spiritual climate is either accelerating your blessing or suffocating it. Every toxic relationship you tolerate, every compromise you justify, every distraction you entertain is creating spiritual turbulence that makes it impossible for heaven's blessings to find a safe landing. You've been wondering why you feel spiritually sluggish in your own home. You've been questioning why peace feels so elusive in your own space. It's because you've allowed squatters to take up residence in places that should be sanctuaries. Before the 10th of August, you must clean house. Not just physically, but spiritually and emotionally. Remove the clutter of toxic conversations. Evict the energy vampires who drain your faith. Cancel the subscriptions to negativity that keep feeding your doubt. Your blessing is already airborne, circling the runway of your life. But it can't land in chaos. It won't touch down in contamination. It's waiting for you to clear the approach so heaven's cargo can finally reach its destination. The question that will determine whether the 10th of August becomes your breakthrough or just another date is this: are you willing to align your heart, your hands, and your house with heaven's frequency before the window closes? Because time is running shorter than you realize, and the blessing won't wait forever for you to get ready. Some blessings land at dawn, but they're loaded at midnight. We're hours from the 10th of August, chosen one. And if you're still awake, if something inside you refuses to let you sleep tonight, it's because your spirit knows what your mind hasn't fully grasped yet. Tomorrow isn't just another day. It's the runway where everything heaven has been circling finally gets clearance to land. But here's what they don't tell you about divine appointments. The most critical moments happen in the hours before the breakthrough, not during it. Think about this for a moment. The night before the Red Sea parted, do you think Moses slept peacefully? The night before the walls of Jericho fell, were the Israelites casually resting in their tents? The night before Jesus rose from the dead, was heaven silent? The hours before miracles are always the most intense. They're the final loading dock of eternity, where blessings get their last-minute instructions and angels receive their deployment orders. Right now, as you're listening to my voice, there's a spiritual control tower operating over your life. And just like at Kennedy Airport at midnight, the most important flights don't wait for daylight, they prepare in darkness. But here's where most believers miss their moment. They think the blessing comes during the event. They think the 10th of August is when the miracle happens. But you need to understand something that will shake you to your core. The miracle begins the night before, in the waiting room of your faith. The Israelites received their instructions for Passover at twilight. Jesus prayed in Gethsemane through the dark hours before his crucifixion. David wrote his most powerful psalms in caves, surrounded by darkness, waiting for dawn. The pattern is clear, beloved. God's greatest moves begin in the midnight hour. Why? Because nighttime separates the desperate from the casual. It divides those who really want breakthrough from those who just want comfort. Anyone can believe when the sun is shining, but it takes a chosen one to stay awake in the spirit when everything around them is silent. Your breakthrough tomorrow depends on your faithfulness tonight. Can you feel it right now? That restlessness in your chest, that inability to dismiss what's happening inside you. That's not insomnia. That's anticipation. Your spirit is on high alert because it recognizes the frequency of answered prayer approaching. But I need to warn you about something. The enemy knows what time it is too. And his final assault against your destiny doesn't come as obvious temptation. It comes as exhaustion, as distraction. as the gentle whisper that says, "You can deal with this tomorrow. Don't you dare fall asleep on your breakthrough." David understood this when he wrote in Psalm 130:6, "My soul waits for the Lord, more than watchmen wait for the morning." Watchmen don't sleep, beloved. They stay alert through the darkest hours because they know dawn is worth the vigil. The difference between those who receive their miracle and those who miss it isn't faith, it's endurance. It's the willingness to stay awake in the spirit when your flesh wants to shut down. It's the commitment to keep your spiritual radar active when everything else goes quiet. If you can stay awake in the spirit tonight, what's been circling your life for months, maybe years, finally gets permission to land. Some of you right now are feeling the weight of this moment. Your heart is racing, your hands might even be trembling. That's not anxiety, that's recognition. Your soul is remembering what it feels like to stand on the edge of the impossible. Type "I'm awake" if you're staying with God through the night. Let heaven know you're not going to sleep through your season of visitation. Because here's the truth that will either encourage you or convict you. God has been circling your life like a plane in a holding pattern, waiting for the right atmospheric conditions to land His blessing. And those conditions aren't about weather. They're about your willingness to stay vigilant when others would rest. The runway lights are on. The control tower is active. Your flight number has been called. But the plane only lands if there's someone awake on the ground to receive it. Tomorrow, the 10th of August, the door opens. But tonight, in these sacred hours before dawn, is when you prove you're ready to walk through it. The question that will determine your destiny is this: will you be found sleeping when your moment arrives, or will you be standing at the gate with your bags packed and your heart ready? Because what happens in the next few hours will echo through the rest of your life. Listen to me carefully, chosen one. Tonight, before the 10th of August arrives, your soul must pass through 3 sacred watches. Every watch reveals a different whisper, and what you hear in each one will determine whether you step into divine appointment or remain trapped in spiritual delay. You see, the enemy has been using your sleepless nights against you. Those 3 a.m. moments when your mind races, when memories resurface, when fear grips your chest. You thought those were torment. But what if I told you they were training? What if God has been preparing you for the most important night watch of your life? Like a harbor lighthouse turning through the darkness, your soul must rotate through 3 positions before dawn breaks on the 10th of August. Miss one watch, and the ships of blessing will crash against the rocks of your unpreparedness. The first watch. Remembering, the first watch begins at sunset. This is when you stop running from your story and start honoring it. Turn your face toward everything you've survived. The divorce that nearly destroyed you. The bankruptcy that left you ashamed. The diagnosis that terrified you. The betrayal that broke your trust. But here's what the enemy doesn't want you to understand. Every wound you carry is a medal of honor. Every scar is evidence that you faced hell and refused to bow. 1 Samuel 17:37 records David's declaration, "The Lord who rescued me from the paw of the lion and the paw of the bear will rescue me from the hand of this Philistine." David didn't hide his battles. He counted them. He remembered them. He used them as evidence of God's faithfulness. Right now, I need you to do something that might feel impossible. Say thank you for the pain that refined you. Say thank you for the wilderness that trained you. Say thank you for the rejection that redirected you. Not because the pain was good, but because you survived it. And survival is always evidence of divine protection. Turn, release, turn, receive. The lighthouse beam sweeps across the first quadrant of your experience. In this watch, gratitude becomes your weapon against every voice that says you're damaged goods. You're not broken, beloved. You're proven. But remembering without releasing will anchor you to yesterday's pain. That's why the lighthouse must turn. The second watch. Releasing. Midnight strikes. The second watch begins. Now comes the hardest part, letting go of what you've carried for decades. The bitterness toward the person who abandoned you. The fear that God will let you down again. The what-if questions that have haunted you since 1987. Here's the brutal truth nobody wants to hear. Your breakthrough is being delayed not by God's timing, but by your grip on yesterday's grievances. You've been carrying poison, thinking it was protection. You've been hoarding hurt, calling it wisdom. Listen to what Jesus said in Matthew 6:14-15. If you forgive other people when they sin against you, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. But if you do not forgive others their sins, your Father will not forgive your sins. That's not suggestion. That's spiritual law. Your unforgiveness is creating a blockage in your blessing pipeline. Every night you go to bed harboring resentment, you're programming your tomorrow for more of the same. I need you to ask yourself a question that will cut deep. What am I still angry about that happened before I knew God's plan for my life? That job you didn't get in 1994? That friend who betrayed you in 2003? That child who walked away in 2015? You've been holding on to hurt from chapters God has already turned. You've been demanding answers for questions He's already resolved. You've been fighting battles He's already won. Turn, release, turn, receive. The lighthouse beam sweeps across the second quadrant. In this watch, forgiveness becomes your access key to divine acceleration. Not because they deserve it, but because you deserve freedom. But releasing the past without rehearsing the future leaves you floating in emptiness. The lighthouse must complete its rotation. The third watch. Rehearsing. Dawn approaches. The third watch begins. This is when you stop hoping for change and start speaking tomorrow's obedience out loud. This is when you rehearse victory before you see it. This is when you declare what you'll do on the 10th of August before the 10th of August arrives. Habakkuk 2:2 commands, "Write the vision and make it plain on tablets, that he may run who reads it." Not think about the vision, not hope for the vision. Write the vision. Here's what most people don't understand about divine appointments. They require earthly preparation. God won't do for you what He's equipped you to do for yourself. He won't make the phone call you're afraid to make. He won't send the text you're avoiding. He won't take the step you're postponing. In this third watch, you speak tomorrow's obedience into existence. You rehearse courage. You practice faith. You declare what you'll do when fear screams wait. Turn, release, turn, receive. The lighthouse beam completes its rotation, illuminating the path forward. In this watch, your voice becomes prophetic. Your words become weapons. Your declarations become divine decrees. Write the one act you'll complete before the 10th of August ends. Write it in the comments. Speak it into the atmosphere. Make it real. Because, chosen one, the lighthouse has turned full circle. The 3 watches are complete, and what you do next will determine whether the 10th of August becomes your breakthrough date or just another day you let opportunities slip through your fingers. Are you ready to stop watching and start walking? You've been wondering why the doors keep slamming shut, haven't you? Why every opportunity feels like it's behind glass. You can see it, you can almost touch it, but something invisible keeps blocking your path. What if I told you that every closed door in your life has been protecting you from entering before you were properly prepared? Listen to me carefully, chosen one. There's a divine sequence that most believers never understand, a sacred progression that determines whether you walk through open doors or watch them close in your face. Heart, hands, house, gate. It's not random. It's not optional. And if you try to skip any step, you'll find yourself circling the same mountain for years, wondering why God's promises feel like mirages in the desert. Your heart had to be broken open first. That divorce that shattered you at 62. That diagnosis that made you question everything. That betrayal from someone you trusted with your whole soul. You thought it was punishment, but it was preparation. Because a heart that's never been cracked can't hold the oil of heaven's anointing. David understood this when he wrote Psalm 51:17. The sacrifices of God are a broken spirit, a broken and contrite heart, O God, you will not despise. Your broken heart wasn't your disqualification, it was your qualification. Every tear you've cried in secret has been liquid gold, preparing the soil of your spirit for what's coming. But once your heart was prepared, your hands had to be surrendered. How many years did you try to force doors open with your own strength? How many times did you push when God said wait, or run when He said rest? Your hands had to learn the difference between effort and obedience, between working for God and working with God. Moses spent 40 years learning this lesson in the wilderness. His hands that once held the power of Egypt had to become empty enough to hold the staff of God. Because heaven doesn't bless busy hands, it blesses surrendered hands. Then came your house. Not just the four walls where you sleep, but the internal structure of your life, your relationships, your finances, your thought patterns, your daily habits. God had to reorganize your private world before He could trust you with public influence. Think about this honestly. How many people do you know who got promoted before their character was ready? How many received wealth before their wisdom was mature? How many stepped into leadership before their integrity was tested? They crashed and burned, didn't they? Because preparation opens the private door, but obedience opens the public gate. Here's what most people miss. When the inner gate opens, outer gates copy it. Let me tell you about Margaret from Brooklyn, 83 years old, grandmother of 7. For 15 years, her eldest son hadn't spoken to her. 15 years of birthdays without calls, Christmases without visits, grandchildren she barely knew. The pain ate at her every single day. But last month, something shifted in Margaret's heart. She stopped trying to prove she was right and started asking God to make her righteous. She wrote a letter not defending herself, not explaining her side, just asking for forgiveness for any pain she'd caused. She mailed it on a Tuesday. Wednesday morning, her son called. Not angry, not defensive, broken. He'd been carrying guilt for 15 years and didn't know how to come home. They talked for 3 hours. They cried together. They forgave each other. Thursday morning, Margaret got a call from her doctor. The test results they'd been worried about? Clear. The heart condition they thought would need surgery? Completely healed. The specialist said he'd never seen anything like it. Coincidence? No. Divine sequence. When Margaret's heart was healed, her hands stopped grasping. When her hands stopped grasping, her house came into order. When her house came into order, the gates swung wide open. Here's the truth that will either set you free or terrify you. You are standing at the subway turnstile of your destiny right now. You can see the train approaching. You can hear it rumbling down the tracks, but you can't push through without the right fare. The fare isn't money, it's alignment. Heart, hands, house, gate. Some of you have been trying to force your way through that turnstile for years. Pushing, shoving, getting angry at the system. But the gate doesn't respond to pressure, it responds to preparation. The 10th of August is your MetroCard activation date. Miss it, and you'll be standing on the platform watching train after train pass by, wondering why everyone else seems to get where they're going while you're stuck in the station. But here's what's going to shock you. The gate isn't mechanical, it's mystical. It doesn't just check your preparation, it reads your heart. It scans for authenticity. It measures your readiness not just for blessing, but for the responsibility that comes with it. Proverbs 18:16 tells us, "A man's gift makes room for him and brings him before great men." But notice it doesn't say his talent, his education, his connections. It says his gift. And your gift isn't just what you can do, it's who you've become through what you've survived. Every sleepless night worried about your grandchildren prepared you to intercede for a generation. Every financial struggle taught you to trust God as your provider. Every health scare reminded you that your life is in His hands, not the doctor's. The gate that's about to open for you isn't just about your breakthrough, it's about your assignment. God isn't just blessing you, He's positioning you. You're not just getting promoted, you're being deployed. But here's the urgency that should grip your soul right now. This gate operates on divine timing, not human convenience. It doesn't stay open just because you're not ready. It doesn't wait just because you're comfortable where you are. When God told the Israelites to leave Egypt, some stayed behind. They missed their moment. They chose familiar slavery over unfamiliar freedom. Don't let that be your story. The question burning in heaven right now isn't whether you're perfect, it's whether you're ready. Ready to step through a gate that will change not just your life, but your lineage. Ready to walk into an assignment that will echo through eternity. But there's something else you need to know about the 10th of August. Something that will either terrify you or transform you. Mercy walks before you in the hallway. I can see you there, dear one. Standing at the edge of the 10th of August like you're approaching the doors of an operating room. Your hands are trembling. Your heart is racing. And that voice, that familiar, crushing voice, is whispering the same lie it's whispered for decades. You'll mess it up again. Stop right there. That shaking in your chest, that tremor in your spirit. That's not disqualification, that's ignition. That's the sound of heaven's engine starting up in your bloodstream. That's divine electricity coursing through bones that have carried disappointment for far too long. Picture this with me. It's 3 a.m. in a hospital corridor. The fluorescent lights are humming that cold, sterile tune that makes your skin crawl. The hallway stretches endlessly in both directions, lined with doors you're afraid to open. But listen, do you hear that? Footsteps, measured, purposeful. The great physician is on the floor, and he's walking toward you. You've been here before, haven't you? Standing in corridors, waiting for news, waiting for healing, waiting for someone to tell you that this time it's going to be different. But every time you've dared to hope, every time you've stepped forward in faith, something went wrong. The church hurt you. Your family abandoned you. Your prayers seemed to bounce off heaven's ceiling like rubber balls. So now you stand frozen, convinced that your past failures have disqualified you from future mercy. Let me tell you something that's going to shake the foundation of that lie. Mercy doesn't come after you get it right. Mercy comes while you're still getting it wrong. Romans 5-8 cuts through every excuse. But God demonstrates His own love for us in this. While we were still sinners, Christ died for us. While we were still sinners, not after we cleaned up our act, not when we proved we deserved it. While we were still broken, still failing, still trembling in hospital corridors at 3 a.m. Mercy first. Mercy near. Mercy now. But here's what the enemy doesn't want you to understand about the 10th of August. He's not afraid of your perfection, he's terrified of your participation. He's not worried about your performance, he's panicked about your presence. Because mercy multiplies when wounded warriors show up anyway. Do you know why you're shaking right now? It's not fear of failure, it's recognition. Your spirit recognizes that this moment, this exact moment, is what every tear you've cried has been preparing you for. Every rejection that crushed you was actually refining you. Every time the church failed you, God was teaching you to depend on Him alone. Every betrayal that left you bleeding was actually building something inside you that can't be shaken. You think your scars disqualify you. Your scars are your credentials. Think about Thomas, doubting Thomas, the one who said, "Unless I see the nail marks in his hands and put my finger where the nails were, I will not believe." John 20:25. Did Jesus reject him? Did heaven write him off as too damaged, too doubting, too difficult? Number. Jesus showed up specifically for Thomas. He appeared in that locked room and said, "Put your finger here, see my hands, reach out your hand and put it into my side. Stop doubting and believe." That's mercy walking in the corridor, dear one. That's grace meeting you exactly where you are, scars and all. The voice that's been telling you you're not ready, that you'll mess it up again, that you should wait until you're stronger, more worthy, more together. That's not wisdom. That's warfare. That's the enemy trying to keep you from stepping into the very moment heaven has been orchestrating for your breakthrough. The 10th of August isn't asking for your perfection. It's asking for your presence. Mercy first. Mercy near. Mercy now. I need you to take a breath with me right now. Close your eyes if you can. Feel the air filling your lungs, air that didn't cost you anything, didn't require you to earn it, didn't demand you prove you were worthy of it. That's grace in motion. That's mercy keeping you alive for this exact moment. In that hospital corridor of your soul, you're not alone. The great physician isn't just on the floor, he's walking toward you. And every step he takes echoes with the same promise. I didn't bring you this far to abandon you now. Isaiah 42:3 promises. A bruised reed he will not break, and a smoldering wick he will not snuff out. You feel bruised, he won't break you. You feel like your fire is barely flickering. He won't snuff you out. He'll fan that flame until it becomes a roaring fire that lights up every dark corridor you've ever walked. But here's the urgency burning in my spirit right now. The 10th of August is your invitation to stop hiding in the hallway and step into the healing room. Stop rehearsing your failures and start receiving your future. Stop letting yesterday's wounds dictate tomorrow's worthiness. The same Jesus who touched lepers without becoming contaminated, who embraced broken people without becoming broken, who loved sinners without becoming sinful, he's reaching for you right now. Not when you get better, not when you feel ready. Right now. Mercy first, mercy near, mercy now. If you've been hurt by church or family, if you've been told you're too damaged, too difficult, too late, type mercy first in the comments right now. Let this community surround you with the love you've been denied. Let us cover you with prayers that penetrate every lie you've believed about your worthiness. Because the 10th of August isn't just a date, it's a doorway, and mercy is standing on the other side, holding it open for you. But there's something else you need to know about this sacred window, something about why the enemy has fought so hard to keep you in that corridor of doubt. Dear chosen one, you've been asking God for a sign, haven't you? Night after night, on your knees beside that same bed where you've whispered desperate prayers for decades. Lord, just show me you're still there. Give me something, anything to let me know. You haven't forgotten my address. But here's what's breaking my heart tonight. You've been looking for thunder when God speaks in whispers. You've been waiting for burning bushes when he's been tapping on your window like a sparrow at dawn. Confirmation won't be loud. It'll rhyme with what you prayed. Listen to me carefully. In the next 24 to 48 hours leading up to the 10th of August, heaven is going to confirm your calling through what I call the triple echo rule. You're going to notice the same word, the same image, the same name appearing 3 times in your life. Not once, not twice, 3 times. Why 3? Because Scripture declares in Deuteronomy 19:15, by the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses every word shall be established. God doesn't waste his confirmations on coincidence. When he wants your attention, he speaks in patterns that only the spiritually awakened can recognize. But here's where most believers miss it entirely. They're expecting God to write their name in the clouds or send an angel to their doorstep. Meanwhile, he's been orchestrating divine encounters right under their noses, and they're calling it coincidence. Let me paint you a picture that might shatter your assumptions about how heaven communicates. You're sitting in your kitchen this morning, stirring your coffee, thinking about that prayer you whispered last night, the one about whether you still have purpose at your age. Suddenly, your neighbor calls and mentions the exact word you used in your private conversation with God. Purpose, she says, talking about her grandson finding his purpose in life. Your heart skips, but you dismiss it. Later that afternoon, you're flipping through channels, and there it is again. A preacher on television using that same word, purpose, but this time he's talking about how God uses people in their golden years for his greatest assignments. Your spirit stirs, but you tell yourself it's just a coincidence. Then that evening, you're at the grocery store, and the young man bagging your groceries looks you in the eye and says, "Ma'am, I can tell you're a woman of purpose. There's something different about you." 3 echoes. Same word. Different messengers. 1 divine confirmation. That's not coincidence, beloved. That's God speaking your language. But here's the devastating truth that's going to hit you like a thunderbolt. How many triple echoes have you already missed because you were looking for something more dramatic? How many times has heaven sent you confirmation in the form of a stranger's comment, an old song on the radio, or a scripture that jumped off the page, and you wrote it off as random? The prophet Samuel almost missed God's voice because he was expecting it to sound different. 3 times God called his name. 3 times Samuel thought it was Eli. It wasn't until the 4th time that he recognized the voice of the Almighty. 1 Samuel 3:10 records his response, "Speak, Lord, for your servant hears." How many times has God been calling your name, and you've been looking for someone else to answer? Here's what's going to happen in the next 48 hours, and I need you to pay attention, like your destiny depends on it, because it does. God is going to send you a triple echo confirmation, but it won't come dressed in religious language. It might come through a conversation with your pharmacist. It might arrive in a text message from a grandchild you haven't heard from in months. It might whisper through the lyrics of a song that takes you back to a moment when you felt closest to God. The first echo will feel like a gentle tap. You'll notice it, but you might not think much of it. The second echo will feel like a stronger nudge. Your spirit will start to pay attention. But the third echo, the third echo will hit your soul like lightning, and you'll know beyond any shadow of doubt that heaven has been orchestrating this entire sequence. But here's the critical part that separates the called from the chosen. When the third echo hits, you must move. Not tomorrow, not next week, not when you feel more prepared. Immediately. Because here's what the enemy doesn't want you to understand. The triple echo isn't just confirmation, it's your marching orders. It's God saying, "I've given you the sign you asked for. Now it's time to trust me with what comes next." Moses received his triple confirmation at the burning bush. The bush burned but wasn't consumed. That was echo 1. God called his name twice, echo 2. Then came the signs with his staff and his hand, echo 3. And what did God say next? "Now therefore, go." Exodus, meiron eleteslo. Gideon asked for confirmation with his fleece. Dry ground, wet fleece, echo 1. Wet ground, dry fleece, echo 2. Then the dream interpretation that confirmed his victory, echo 3. And immediately he went into battle. You see, chosen one, God doesn't send triple echoes to make you more comfortable with your calling. He sends them to remove every excuse you have for not walking in it. But here's the shocking truth that's going to expose the real reason you've been waiting so long for breakthrough. You've been receiving confirmations for years, but you've been too afraid to move on them. You've been asking for signs while ignoring the ones he's already sent. You've been praying for doors to open while standing in front of doors that are already unlocked. Tonight, as you close your eyes, I want you to ask yourself this haunting question. What if the delay isn't on God's side? What if he's been waiting for you to act on the confirmations he's already given? The 10th of August isn't just another date. It's your final confirmation, your last chance to prove you're listening when heaven speaks. Your moment to stop asking for signs and start following the ones you've already received. If you're ready to stop missing God's voice in the everyday moments, if you're finally prepared to move when heaven confirms your calling, comment below, "I'll move on the third echo." Because, beloved, the echo you've been waiting for is about to sound. The question is, will you recognize it when it comes? Or will you let it join the chorus of missed opportunities that have been haunting your destiny for decades? The sparrow is about to tap your window. The song is about to play on your radio. The stranger is about to speak your prayer back to you. And when that third echo hits, everything you've been waiting for will depend on what you do next. But to understand why the 10th of August carries such prophetic weight, you need to know what's been happening in the spiritual realm while you've been waiting. Dear chosen one, I need to tell you something that might save you from the biggest mistake of your spiritual life. Right now, as the 10th of August approaches, the enemy is preparing his masterpiece of deception. Not an obvious trap that you'd spot from a mile away, something far more dangerous. A counterfeit door that looks exactly like the blessing you've been praying for. Counterfeits rush. Covenant waits. Listen to me carefully. In these final days before the 10th of August, you're going to see doors opening that feel urgent, opportunities that demand immediate action, signs that scream, "This is it. Don't wait." But I need you to understand something that could spare you years of regret. The devil's greatest weapon isn't temptation. It's imitation. Think about those street vendors in Times Square selling Rolex watches for $50. They shine, they tick, they even have the logo. But 6 months later, they're dead on your wrist. The enemy operates the same way with spiritual opportunities. He'll give you something that glitters with all the right promises, demands all the right urgency, but leaves you spiritually bankrupt when the shine wears off. How do you tell the difference? How do you discern between a door that leads to destiny and a door that leads to a dead end dressed up as breakthrough? Here's your discernment grid. Memorize this. Your future depends on it. First, peace over pressure. God's doors come with supernatural peace, even when they require faith to walk through them. When Jesus told his disciples to launch out into the deep, there was no panic in his voice, no manipulation. No, you have 5 minutes to decide or you'll miss it forever. But counterfeit doors, they come with artificial urgency that makes your stomach churn. They whisper, "If you don't act now, someone else will get your blessing." That's not how your Father operates. Second, clarity over chaos. Real divine opportunities become clearer the closer you get to them, like a camera coming into focus. But false doors become more confusing the deeper you investigate. God is not the author of confusion. 1 Corinthians 14:33 settles that. If you're getting mixed signals, if something doesn't add up, if you need to explain away red flags, step back. Third, consistency over charisma. Watch how the opportunity behaves over time. God's doors don't change their terms. They don't add hidden costs. They don't suddenly require you to compromise your values. But counterfeit doors, they're like used car salesmen. The story keeps changing. The deal keeps getting better, but somehow more complicated. Fourth, fruit over fireworks. This one's crucial. The enemy loves to put on a show. Dramatic signs, spectacular coincidences, people calling you chosen. But Jesus said in Matthew 7:16, "By their fruits you will know them." What kind of fruit is this opportunity producing in your spirit right now? Anxiety? Confusion? A desperate need to convince others it's from God? Or peace? Clarity? A quiet confidence that transcends circumstances? Here's your gut check question, and I want you to answer this honestly. If this opportunity truly required you to move in panic, would a loving Father present it that way? If it demanded that you abandon wisdom, ignore counsel, and act against every principle he's taught you, would that sound like his voice? You know better. Deep in your spirit, you know better. I've watched too many believers rush through doors that slammed shut behind them, leaving them trapped in situations that looked like blessings but felt like bondage. I've seen too many people mistake the enemy's counterfeit for God's covenant, then spend years trying to figure out why their answered prayer brought more problems than peace. If it needs you frantic, it's not your Father. The real door to your 10th of August breakthrough won't make you crazy. It won't demand that you ignore wisdom. It won't require you to defend it to everyone you trust. God's doors have his signature on them. Peace that surpasses understanding, even in the midst of requiring faith. Write in the comments which grid line you'll use first when testing the doors that appear before the 10th of August. Peace over pressure, clarity over chaos, consistency over charisma, or fruit over fireworks. Let me know which one resonates most with your spirit right now. But here's what I haven't told you yet. Even knowing how to test the doors isn't enough, because there's something about the 10th of August that changes everything. Beloved chosen one, as we reach the end of this sacred encounter, I need you to carry these truths with you, like precious stones in your heart. Remember this. The 10th of August isn't just another date, it's your divine appointment with destiny. The doors that appear before this moment will test everything you've learned about discernment. peace over pressure, clarity over chaos, consistency over charisma, fruit over fireworks. These aren't just guidelines, they're your spiritual lifeline in the days ahead. Remember that counterfeits rush, but covenant waits. If it needs you frantic, it's not your Father. God's timing may seem slow to your human heart, but His delays are never denials. They're divine positioning for something greater than you can imagine. And most importantly, remember that your season of delay has an expiration date. What seemed impossible yesterday becomes inevitable when heaven says now. But I need you to know something deeper than knowledge, something that settles in your bones. You are not walking this path alone. Even when the road feels uncertain, even when the breakthrough seems delayed, even when doubt whispers lies in your ear, the God who called you before time began is still working in your life right now, in this very moment. He's moving mountains you can't see, opening doors you haven't found yet, and orchestrating blessing you can't even imagine. And right here, in this community of believers, you have thousands of brothers and sisters who understand your struggle, who believe in your calling, and who are ready to stand with you in prayer. We're not just viewers on a screen, we're a family, united by faith, connected by hope, and bound together by the love of Christ. Let me ask you this final question, and let it settle deep in your spirit. When the 10th of August arrives and you're standing before the door God has prepared for you, will you have the courage to walk through it, knowing that everything you've been through was preparation for this moment? Before I release you into your destiny, I want to place my hand on your shoulder through these words and pray over your life with the authority of 5 decades walking with the Almighty. Heavenly Father, I lift up every precious soul who has stayed with us through this entire message. Lord, you see their hearts. You know their struggles. You've counted every tear they've shed in the secret place. Right now, I pray that you would breathe fresh wind into their weary souls. Where they feel forgotten, remind them of their worth. Where they feel confused, grant them clarity. Where they feel weak, be their strength. God, I pray specifically for the 10th of August. Whatever door you're opening for them, give them the wisdom to recognize it and the courage to walk through it. Silence every voice of fear that would hold them back. Break every chain of doubt that would bind them. Open their spiritual eyes to see what you're doing, even when their natural eyes can't comprehend it. Father, bless their families, their health, their finances, their dreams. Let this be the turning point where everything shifts. Let this be the moment when years of waiting give birth to seasons of abundance. Let them feel your presence so strongly that fear has no place to land in their hearts. And Lord, use their testimony, every part of their story, every struggle they've overcome, every mountain they've climbed, to set others free who are walking the same path. Let their breakthrough become hope for the hopeless. Let their victory become strength for the weary. In Jesus' mighty name, I seal this prayer and release them into their destiny with confidence, with courage, and with your unshakable peace that surpasses all understanding. Amen. Now I want to hear from you. In the comments below, share how this message has impacted your heart. What is God speaking to you about the 10th of August? What door is He preparing to open in your life? Don't hold back. Your testimony might be exactly what someone else needs to hear. If you felt God's presence during this message, if something stirred in your spirit that confirms this word was for you, type the 10th of August is my moment in the comments. Let this community surround you with prayer and encouragement. And please, share this message with someone who needs to hear it. There's someone in your life right now, a family member, a friend, a co-worker, who's been feeling that same stirring, that same sense that something significant is approaching. They need to know they're not alone. They need to know their breakthrough is closer than they think. Thank you for staying with me through this entire journey. Thank you for opening your heart, for letting these words penetrate the sacred chambers of your soul. Thank you for being part of this family of believers who refuse to give up, who keep believing, who know their God is faithful. If this is your first time here, welcome to the family. Hit that subscribe button and join thousands of believers who gather here regularly to be encouraged, equipped, and empowered for kingdom living. We're building something beautiful together, a community where faith grows, hope is restored, and destinies are fulfilled. Until we meet again, walk in the authority of who you are. You are chosen, you are called, you are not